at, including matters governance and whatnot. So, Daktari, we were just having a conversation on the impact Raila had in the 2002 NAC coalition, and perhaps before we continue with our conversations, just breaking down the timelines of this great man, what's your reaction to today's planning, where we saw, of course, hundreds, thousands of mourners stand up over at JKIA, made their way to Kasarani. We saw some instances where tear gas was dispelled in order to at least manage the masses. Unfortunately, some lives were lost, but at the end of the day, the homecoming of the body was definitely a sight for sore eyes. Talk to us about your reflection.
Yeah, first of all, yes, my condolences to those who lost their loved ones in the fracas at Kasarani. Yeah. But having said that, you know, the government has been in a very difficult spot. When you are facing a deadline that looks impossible, that you want to inter Raila in 72 hours, and is in India, there is no time for proper development of security, for example, to cordon off the international airport, that people wanting to mourn are rerouted to venues where they can mourn and not to go to the airport. Mm-hmm. There's no time to secure the perimeters of parliament buildings so that there's only an orderly queue that can be used for entry and exit for people going to parliament. There is no proper structured coordination of crowd control when you revert to Kasarani. So they were inventing on the go. Mm-hmm. And some of the excesses we see are an outcome of that dearth of time for planning. Okay. But also there's another phenomenon. We've had a state funeral for Jomo Kenyatta, for Moi, for Michael Malwa, for Mwai Kibaki. But none of those people had the type of emotional audience, the religious following that Agwambo has had. So even measures that seemed and could work for other dignitaries during their funerals, they were insufficient for the kind of constituency that owes its allegiance to Raila, that's so beholden to him. Yeah. And unlike others whose funerals took a long time for people to come to terms and mellow before the viewing and extended viewing. Remember Kibaki viewing 10 days? Yeah. Cramming viewing of Raila into one day, into half a day, was a major challenge, and some of the disruptions were bound to happen. I hold my breath about what will happen in Kisumu.
I hope having seen the numbers that turned out in Nairobi, they will plan ahead with that in mind, because it will definitely be a logistical nightmare to try and control the masses, which are expected to turn out in their numbers in Kisumu and Bondo as well.
That's right.
Definitely. Well, let's see how the cookie will crumble, as they say. You were just talking to us about that transition point.
Okay, so let me just round off that.
Sure.
There's too much talk about Raila making Kibaki president by saying Kibaki Tosha. Yeah. That's a false narrative. Mm-hmm. We in NAC, the National Alliance of Kenya, had been building this process for more than a year. We had agreed that Kibaki was going to be the candidate. We just waited for some time because we were trying to persuade the late Simeon Nyachae to come on board. Okay. We wanted him to co-own this decision. And just in that delicate moment, Raila leads Saitoti and Mudi Awori and Gumo and others to abandon Kanu and come to us. Mm-hmm. So he jumps the gun by announcing a decision that was not made by him. And Kenyans think that Raila's declaration of Kibaki Tosha is what made Kibaki the candidate. But indeed, the fact that a potential competitor who had left the other side because he had been belittled by the Moi team, being the first one to say in a public function that I endorse Mwai Kibaki was an important statement. But that is the character of Raila. He always tried to run with it. Even from earlier period through those phases, you are discussing something, it's about to mature. Raila prematures it.
So it was a strength and a weakness, maybe.
Yes, a strength and a weakness, but that is his character.
Interesting. You're talking about this government formed by President Mwai Kibaki and the likes of yourself in behind the scenes. There seems to be a fallout right after Kibaki ascended to presidency between him and Raila Odinga. I don't know what exactly was agreed. You might be privy to some of this information. Yeah, talk to us about that, because there's so much that happened between 2002 and 2005 before Kenya went to that referendum. Yeah.
All right. First of all, there were some nuanced agreements between the LDP team that was led by Raila and the NAC team that was led by Kibaki when we agreed to form government together. And some of the portfolio promises to the LDP team were not honored by the Kibaki side of that bargain. So Raila and his team took up positions in government, but there was substantial disgruntlement. There are some positions which had been promised people like Kalonzo Musyoka, which were not effected. So that is just an underlying issue. Our most significant issue was there was emerging a certain team, a certain clique around the president from our side of the coalition that were trying to be controlistas. They wanted to dominate government, micromanagement government affairs, and do some things that are outrageous, but they do behind the backs of others. Taking totally different lines on outrageous things like the resurgence of Goldenberg, the ghost of corruption, strange relationships with phenomena like the Mamlukis from Romania, or was it Armenia, from Armenia, who showed up and were using government weaponry. So there was like different layers of government and a certain incipient kind of impunity, which was abhorrent enough for some of us, but intolerable for those who had come from another side of the equation. But I think the main thing that led to the breach, to falling apart, was some people pushed Mwai Kibaki to go into a referendum of oranges and bananas, which was totally unnecessary for government, which we did not need. And it's a kind of hubris. Losing a war that you did not need can undermine the foundation of your government. And that is what that 2005 referendum of constitutional change did to the government.
So Kenya wasn't at a constitutional moment.
It was not a constitutional moment. And even the questions that we took to referendum, you know, we did not resolve them in a referendum. We resolved them in Naivasha later. So we could have done a Naivasha instead of a referendum. Having a referendum where half of government is campaigning against the other half of government in a public referendum was a political irresponsibility. But those are the miscalculations that fueled already incipient tension between the LDP crowd, or many of them, and the more NAC crowd on the other side. And I think that's what led to the departure of Raila and some of his team from government.
Okay, it seems like every crisis presents an opportunity, as they say. The shooting down of that particular referendum led to the birth of the Orange Democratic Movement Party, and thereafter, it's, as they say, the rest is history. The party was just celebrating 20 years this time round, but having been in the sidelines of the constitution of this social democratic party, what would you say was the lifeline? So many credit it to Raila Odinga, who's no longer with us. Some may say that the party will struggle with the absence of the former Prime Minister. What's your view from outside looking in?
Well, I'm not looking too much in, but I have this sense that if you see how Raila took off with a very substantial, more than half of the members of parliament of Ford Kenya when he left and formed his NDP. And then later on morphed it into ODM. It has been Raila and his team. Some of us saw Jaramogi in a different way. Jaramogi, Raila's father, in his last years, nurtured a team of persons that he saw as sustaining his legacy, but also growing the political movement.
And who are those, Matiba and Orengo? Or?
No.
Yeah.
He called us the so-called young turks.
Okay.
Because he trusted us and he talked to us very candidly. And in the week before he died, he called us to his hotel in Mombasa. And like in his last prayers with us, gave us a very detailed account about how far we have come. That his body clock was not working very well. Be brave, you are adult, you are not children. And nearly all of you are older than Tomboya and Mwai Kibaki and Kiana when they became ministers. But thank you and keep to the course. I don't think Raila has done something similar to his political constituency. There is no cross-cutting, trans-ethnic team of persons who can inherit the mantle of Raila from the ODM team and keep that team together and nurture its growth elsewhere. You already noticed in the last few months that ODM could not field candidates in Kisii. In places where the people were there were ODM members. ODM could not raise a candidate for any of the seats in Luyaland. So it's dwindling fortunes, and I don't think I can see any of the other persons within the ODM family who can stem that decline of the party. So we are going to see a divergence of issues. One, internal succession in the Luo nation. Yeah. And at another level, who can pick and keep together the parts of ODM. But of course, at another level, who can discipline Raila's parliamentary group to do the bidding for Ruto, the way Raila could do. I'm not saying that.
Okay, interesting times, and definitely once he's laid to rest, there could be a power battle in ODM. Let's see if the interim party leader, Oburu Oginga, will be able to call his lieutenants to order. But that's a story for another day, and we'll cross that bridge when we reach there. Back to post-2007, but even before that, you were in cabinet. Raila Odinga was in cabinet, I think, until former President Mwai Kibaki dissolved and appointed after the referendum. How was it sharing the space in cabinet with this gentleman? How was it? Yeah.
No, I mean, Raila was a very dedicated and efficient and energetic minister.
Oh, okay.
That he carried out his duties, with rigor, and you could demonstrate that this is a person who has been in the trenches, waiting for an opportunity to deliver and to perform. And as a cabinet colleague, I saw his contributions to cabinet discussions, his contributions and ideas about how to turn around the economy, and his contributions in running his ministry pretty clearly impressive. Okay. Yeah, you could not fault him. Yeah. And he gave Kibaki his due respect as his president.
Okay, let's talk about 2007, and that particular election has left a mark in Kenya's history, bearing the post-election violence that followed right after. And it was a decisive election in terms of which way Kenya. And, well, the election results are contested in some quarters, but at the end of the day, we definitely saw Mwai Kibaki on one side and Raila Odinga on the other come together for the sake of the country. How was it during that particular transition? Some of these Gen Zs might not truly understand the sort of tension that was in the country, leading to the former president being sworn in at ungodly hours, quote unquote. Take us through.
Well, first of all, the results and the declared results of that election remain very controversial.
Sure.
I have no basis, in fact, to point out exactly how that election went as a result. But there are a number of things that are still sour in the mouth around that period. And I think this country has to take important lessons about the easy way we can descend into bloodletting because of ethnic demonization. It still remains very sore in my memory what happened at Kamba Church near Eldoret, when women and children were burnt in a church, and children being thrown out by their mothers, young men will take them and throw them back in to die. You cannot do that in the name of democracy. But I think there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
This nation did not go through the process of reconciliation after the pogroms of early 2008. Many Kikuyus were flushed out of areas of Rift Valley. They moved into Nakuru, others came into central Kenya. And the state has never aided them to retrieve their rights, their land. We have covered on that injustice. What it meant is crime was rewarded. We have never tried to make it painful to stifle people's citizen rights. So that is one of the consequences of that election. A second phenomenon, in the run-up to an election, we should stigmatize very personalized hate, like hate across ethnic communities. I remember the campaign about 41 against 1, and I'm seeing that ugly hate coming back, not from one side, from both the opposition and the government side. A democratic competition in a country with 43 plus communities cannot be played around the theater of ethnic competition between two communities.
Okay.
The opportunists who use the language of threats, the language of frightening as part of politics, are not learning the lessons we needed to learn. One of the things that stick to my memory about Kibaki, when he became president, in the first cabinet meeting we had, after we had been sworn in, the president recommended to cabinet that we donate Cabernet Gardens and give it as a gift to Daniel Arap Moi. Moi had lived in Cabernet Gardens since 1967, but he had never grabbed it. And here is a president who had been humiliated by Moi, called names, Wakahoya, fence sitter, and everything. And his first act is magnanimity. Give Mzee Moi that residence. It's a statement to reduce the anxiety of a departing president.
Okay.
That his person, his integrity, his dignity will not be assailed when he's out of office. It's a lesson that's important in maturing democracy. And we have to learn from that. Both sides of the political equation are already escalating what should be stifled early in the campaigns now.
Okay. I'd like to take you to the art of political reinvention, because as a politician yourself, I'm sure you definitely do understand the importance of, always being relevant to the masses in order to get the support, quote unquote. So this is a man who lost the presidential race 5 times. I haven't talked about the AUC race as well, but he found a way to reinvent a loss and make it again. Some look at it as, political conmanship. Others look at it, this is a man who put the country first and his own political ambitions took the back seat. How do you look at the handshakes from Moi to Kibaki, Nusu Mkate, to Uhuru Kenyatta, to Ruto? How did Raila Odinga?
The character of those changes has not been the same. I gave you my sense of what happened with the handshake of the 1997 election.
Yes.
When Moi was desperate to have a working majority.
Yeah.
If you look at the post-2007 election, to me, the driver of Raila reaching an accommodation with Kibaki was an appreciation of the level of damage to the nation that had happened because of the pogroms following the elections. Destruction of property, loss of lives, and besmirching the image of the country. Of all the coalitions that Raila has done, to me, the most respectable is the handshake with Mwai Kibaki after the bloodletting following the 2007 election. The other handshakes have taken sides with an incumbent boss when he's fighting another side. So that he's strengthening the hand of a person who did not have the capacity on his own to run affairs, when internally he's seeing a drift of his constituency.
Okay.
That Raila comes in to mitigate the cost of losing Ruto for for Uhuru, and similarly comes in to mitigate the imminent loss of Gachagua for Ruto. So those to me, they have never made sense to me.
Political convenience.
I don't know if they're convenient to him politically, but I think the last one, it is not right to besmirch a person when his body is cold. But the last one has not been consistent with the legacy that he had built for himself. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And that brings us to this point in terms of passing the torch. Can we compare Raila Odinga's fight throughout the decades with the agitation of the Kenya's youth, commonly referred to as Gen Z?
Yes, in an important way, yes. That, you know, the fight of the Gen Z is an ideas fight. A perception that things could be better. They live in an age when they have seen things actually work better in other places. And they say that there's no rocket science getting it right. But then they are also, at a very modest age, accessing tools that can show how much there's abuse of office, how much there's pilferage of public resources, how much hardship hurdles are put in the paths. This is in a way that was not easy in our day. I mean, many people forget the technological revolution. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
When we were working as young Turks in 1990, 91, 92, we had access to one laptop, which was in my house. So all the statements, into the late of the night, were being worked out in my house because we had the only computer for that struggle in the initial phase.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
every Gen Z has a computer in their pocket. We did not have social media. Today, everything that happens in Nepal when Gen Zs overthrow a government, when Gen Zs overthrow a government in Bangladesh, when Gen Zs have just driven out a president in Madagascar, the Gen Zs in Kenya see it and they're asking themselves, how did they go on to the last stage and we did not succeed when it did in 2024? So this global village of information is a major advantage that Gen Zs have. But the similarity of the struggle and our struggle is as a dedication to a cause larger than yourselves. I think since the Young Turks, the Gen Zs are representing the first time that I'm seeing in Kenya politics, persons who are saying, I'm not doing this so that I have a better life for myself, but I'm doing this for my country, for a goal larger than themselves. That's a consciousness that had started disappearing. And for some of us, we're getting excited that at least we can look with pleasure that even when we leave this world, part of our struggles, our DNA of political struggle is inherited through the Gen Z generation.
Indeed, that's a good way to put it. And as we finalize, so much has been said about Raila, the man, an enigma of Kenyan politics, a man who transcended party politics, put the state first. So all things said and done, how best do you remember the man, Raila Amolo Odinga?
Raila was an interesting person. In some things, a very good team player. You know, for 10 years, I was the head of the parliamentary football team. And he was one of my strikers and a very disciplined member of the soccer team. But in many other things, I see Raila as a maelstrom. You know, this a maelstrom, like a typhoon. You know, a very mobile force. He can get very impatient with process if it is slow. He likes triggering faster doing it. And maybe it's also his engineering training, but I found Raila very quick in decision making. There's a lot of other persons who had more than two hands, you know, on one hand, on this hand, and on the other hand. And Raila said, no, but let us get on with this. And even before you are quite sure, well, that's what you want to do, he's up there and doing it. So he's a mobile typhoon kind of personality. Can be controversial, but cannot be indecisive. I think that is one way I look at him. Another level, Raila was very well wired around the continent. When I picked up, first of all, my job as a fellow at the Brookings Institution in Washington after I lost the 2007 election, but particularly when I was an Undersecretary General of the United Nations, I got to meet him quite a lot. I am representing the United Nations, but he is representing Africa, not just Kenya. So he had outgrown the village, Many of you could think of him in the Lagata politics, but the way he was defending the Grand Inga Dam on the Congo at a continental meeting on the Africa of the next decade in Miami, and even in Washington, and the way he has been major, formally and informally, pushing for greater tolerance on the East African integration process.
Yeah.
I've been exemplary as beyond a Kenyan nationalist, a good Pan-Africanist, in a way that a lot of Kenyans have not been able to capture it. But also in this context, I should mention, and I mentioned this in a number of interviews I did before the election of the chair of Africa Union. Raila did not lose the election because he was a bad candidate. He lost the election because when Francophonie and Muslim Africa have a candidate against an Anglophone candidate, they will always win. So that was the basis of his defeat.
Okay.
It was not the internal mechanisms of his campaign.
So it wasn't mismanaged from
No.
view.
There might have been mismanagement.
Yeah.
And some of the conduct of Ruto did not help too much.
Okay.
For example, I mean, there have been examples.
Yeah.
But that notwithstanding, it was always a tall order when you get a Muslim who speaks French running against a non-Muslim who speaks English. There are many. That combination is a much majority of the membership of African Union.
Well, it's a numbers game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a point that, we lost the president that we never had.
Yeah.
Some say he's a Pan-Africanist and he should have ascended to higher positions, but unfortunately we definitely didn't see that materialize. But all things said and done, this is a man whose legacy will live on beyond generations, and it was a pleasure just hearing from you, Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi, in terms of your reflection of your life alongside Raila Odinga. And of course, we tell you pole sana because you've lost a compatriot in this fight for better democracy space in the country. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
And thank you very much for attention, your audience.
Asante sana. Well, you're watching KTN. We continue with our wall-to-wall coverage of the day's developments in the run-up to the final rites of the former Prime Minister, the late Raila Odinga, who will be interred at Opoda Farm in Siaya, Bondo. Trust KTN to keep you updated on the developments that played out in the course of the day, and we'll do just that in just but a few. My colleague Ashley Mazuri and I will be coming to you live with the updates on the latest news making headlines. Keep it KTN. My name is Jesse Rogers. See you in a few. We leave you with these pictorials.